Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Learn with Jason. Today on the show, we are going to touch on something really exciting. We're going to be looking into how Angular is evolving, and more particularly, how a meta framework is coming out on top of it, which was a little controversial, but it's something that I'm really excited by. So to teach us about it is the creator, Brandon Roberts. Brandon, how you doing?
I'm good, Jason. You just came right off the top with the controversy, so we're gonna jump right into it. Go right into it.
I mean, it's one of the things that I have really admired about the way that you've handled this is that you are both pushing boundaries and also listening to feedback, which I think is a pretty rare combo. And I'd want to talk a lot about it. Before I do that, let's make sure everybody knows who we're dealing with here. So for folks who aren't familiar, can you give us a background on yourself?
Yeah, so Brandon Roberts. I give the usual pitch. You can follow me on Twitter, Brandon T. Roberts. I have fun. I joke on Twitter. I block people sometimes, but it's all fun most of the time, unless we get into controversial topics. But that's another thing there. I also am one of the maintainers of NGRX, which has been in the Angular community for a while, and creator of AnalogJS, which we'll get into, and Angular GDE, which just means I've been in the community, been able to do some cool stuff there, build some things with friends, kind of keep the community thing going. So also engineering lead at Open Source, where I work with wonderful people there. Including Brian Douglas and the rest of the squad. So we're doing a lot of open source, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I've been super impressed by that open source team. It just seems like y'all are doing so much cool stuff out there. Just saw you launched the lottery factor, which I really enjoy. I always joked about that, and then to see that kind of get coded as a metric, I thought was, I mean, honestly, it's a great metric. And I'm not going to tell anybody what that means. You're going to have to go look at the open source website to figure it out.
There you go.
But so let's talk a little bit in the kind of at the high level here. So Analog is a meta framework for Angular. Is that the right way to characterize it?
Yeah, that's the pretty much the usual pitch. Yep.
Cool. And so it does a lot of things that meta frameworks do. But the most interesting one for me, at least when I first saw you talking about it, was that you've introduced the single file component approach into Angular, which is, my experience of Angular is that it tends to be very, it's like safe to write at the cost of verbosity. Right. Yeah. And so you end up with a lot of files, which is good because you know exactly what you're getting into. And like every Angular project looks exactly the same. So skills are really transferable once you're an Angular dev. But it also means you have a ton of files and like you kind of need to use the Angular CLI to generate things. And so Analog looks very different. And so I guess what was your, like, where did the idea come from? Kind of what got you down this path?
Yeah, so we call them the analog SFCs, but they've gone down a journey themselves. But I agree with what you said. Like Angular is great if you're if you're a backend dev, you become like a Java or a C# shop or something like that, and you're using classes everywhere. You're kind of used to that OOP syntax for writing everything, and then you kind of transition to doing some front end work with Angular. Like the progression there feels very natural in those cases. But also on the other side of that, if we look at Angular traditionally, like compared to like other frameworks, even outside of meta frameworks in general, just like you said, like the verbosity of authoring components can be a bit heavy at times. Some people may even say it's boilerplatey, just because the amount of things you have to set up there. So the SFC kind of went through a few like iterations as far as what that kind of looked like. So I had thrown the idea. I've thrown the idea out there, more than once. But it looked different. I was trying to. The first, I think one of the ones I had out there was like basically an exercise in compromise. Like it was. What about this one? And it basically got trashed and everything. So there's like it's always the usual reaction. Oh, looks Angular's turning into React now. It's like, well, no, not really. Just because they're like fundamentally different in how they work, but yeah, that was like the first iteration, and then the second iteration of it was I was like, well, okay, let's kind of tweak things a little bit, see how this could actually work within the Angular mental model, and so kind of went back to the drawing board and I kind of prototyped it out at first, but I didn't have all the pieces like to connect it together, and this was even after like Analog had already launched and everything, so we were already building things with Analog, even just with traditional, I call them traditional Angular components and things. So
Right.
but yeah, then we kind of moved along, and me and a friend of mine, Chow, actually were like pairing together on trying to get this thing working, just like using this alternative syntax for single file components. And so one day it kind of dawned on me how to connect the two things together that worked within Angular's worked within the Angular box, I should say. So the syntax it looks a lot similar to like Vue and Svelte, in that you have kind of three distinct blocks: a script tag, a template tag, and a style tag. But you get underneath, you still get all the functionality of like a modern Angular component. And that was the kind of the motivation behind it. Was I wanted to see what Angular's already doing a lot of things to become more modern, and I'm sure we'll kind of talk about that more. But I think like the component is one of the last like parts of that effort, and they've said that they're gonna like iteratively like improve the authoring format for Angular components, but that's because they have a lot of other things to account for when building those components. And like with Analog, we could take a fresher, cleaner approach, I feel like, with
Right.
those. So
Yeah, I mean, I like one of the things that I've talked to Mark Texan about is how much care has to be taken when you change Angular because of how many people depend on it and can't manage a big breaking change. Like they obviously, I mean, the Angular 1 to Angular 2 switch was it was big.
Yeah.
And I think they'd never want to recreate that. So I definitely understand their desire to, be thoughtful and deliberate and to pace things out. But I think that sort of like, I feel the relationship between the web and JavaScript frameworks in general is that, the web can't break backward compatibility. So it can't just add new stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But it relies on JavaScript frameworks to try stuff and make things work that don't work in the browser, and let people discover what the right features are for building in our current era. And I think that especially as some of these more established frameworks start to become legacy, not in the sense that they're like no longer useful, but in the sense that they power some of the biggest things on the internet and can't break backward compatibility anymore, then the meta frameworks on top, things like the Next.js's, the analogs of the world, are there to push they can try stuff, they can break things, and that's okay because that's kind of what they're there for. And the best stuff will get pulled back into the core level of the framework after it's been proven out. So I love the approach of kind of experimenting and building on top of other people's good work. And I alluded to this earlier, but one of the things that I've really liked about the way you've done this is that every step of the way, you're like, what do y'all think? And then, a lot of people are like, this is super cool. And the small group is like, this is terrible. I hate this. Why are you changing things?
What pitchforks? This is the first I'm hearing about people not liking this thing. I'm gonna have to go back and check the history or something.
But so, I mean, I felt like it's been so, I don't know. I like the energy that's being brought to this because it's pushing you're pushing the envelope you're also listening to feedback and you're iterating. You said you mentioned how many different tries it took to get to where you are now. But I imagine that the single file components are not the only thing that that sets Analog apart. So what else is happening inside of Analog that somebody might want to try out?
Yeah, so like I said, to me, like the Meta framework these days is I consider it to have like a core set of features for the most part. Some of them, could be optional, but for me, the other like SFCs aside, if you were just to walk into, and wonder what Analog is about, there's a few main things there. One of them is like file-based routing. So in Angular, you have your traditional configuration-based setup where you configure all the routes, you configure all the folders, you create all the components, you do all that. You kind of wire out. You're responsible for wiring all that thing up, all that stuff up manually. And in Analog, there is we have file-based routing, which is similar to Next.js, SvelteKit, Nuxt, these other meta frameworks that build on top of their particular ecosystem. But you still get all the power of the Angular router. So you define files and folders using our kind of standard convention there, and you can just build pages and routes on top of that. So that's one of them. The other thing is server-side rendering and static site generation. And this is if you're traditionally Angular has been we only use Angular in enterprise, so why do we care about SEO? But there are still people that maybe you're in an Angular shop, but you want to build like some marketing page or landing page or something like that. And I've seen this over and over where they say, well, something like that doesn't necessarily exist in Angular today, so we're going to go reach for Next or Remix or whichever the server-side rendering platform of choice is, and they'll use that. So it gives you an option to build these static sites and use server-side rendering there, and also API routes is another feature there. So if you can reach for, you can use this in the routes folder. Where you just get an API built in. You have these endpoints that you can just create, and this is where you can talk to the server, do different things there. And those are like the biggest features as far as what Analog brings in terms of like what a meta framework is. And a lot of this is built on top of like Vite and Nitro, which is a lot of the underlying tech there. But those are like the few things that I kind of consider like table stakes for like meta frameworks these days.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think you brought up a really good point with that take on like Angular for enterprise, where that's true. But even if your company builds their whole dashboard and it's all behind a user login, it's all SPA, like it doesn't matter. You know that somebody's just going to be loading it the SPA way. So yeah, you don't care about SEO, you don't care about some of the things that a meta framework might provide. The thing that becomes a bummer about that is from a team standpoint, you still have to, like your marketing team still has to go out and build landing pages, webinar pages, the support docs, the documentation itself, all these public facing things. And if you try to build that without the static site gen or without the SSR, you end up what I've seen happen in practice is that companies end up with multiple frameworks. And so they're like, well, we built our app in Angular, but then we reached for, maybe it's 11D or maybe it's React, and now they've got like competing design systems, and now they've got like all these challenges of getting things together. So a really exciting thing for shops that would consider themselves Angular shops is bringing in Analog can actually solve all of the non-app things that you were currently using other tools for, and like let you share one design system across all of them because it's just Angular components, right? Like there's a really, and I think this is one of the big appeals of React, was that you could kind of bend it into any shape you needed it to. And so companies would say, well, we can use it everywhere, so we're going to standardize on it. And I think that this gives Angular that same flexibility to say, yeah, we can use it everywhere, so we're going to standardize on it.
Yeah, I agree. I've talked about like Angular and React as far as one is a like a framework. Angular's already been a framework of opinions, and React is like a framework of primitives, where you can just take it and kind of mold it and build it into whatever you want it to be, whether it be a static site, landing page, or even a full blown app. And some of those things have evolved in Angular also, where they're building more of these primitives that allow projects like Analog to build on top of that. So it's exciting to see that how like Angular kind of has continued to evolve it in that way, outside of even just the framework itself, making like these changes over time. But yeah, like you said, there are people or devs who work in a particular shop. They prefer a certain stack, and now that there's an option for them, I mean, nothing to take away from these other options, but they use what they're familiar with, and that tends to work out better, for maintenance and even like long-term support and things like that.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, okay, so I could probably talk about this for like days, but I want to try it. So let me flip us over into the pair programming view here, and let me get this little banner up. I'm also going to show the captioning link. So our show is being live captioned. We've got Diane here from White Coat Captioning. Thank you so much, Diane. That is being made possible by our sponsor, Netlify. Thank you, Netlify, for making the show more accessible. And we are talking to Brandon. I already showed the link, but I'm going to drop this again. So make sure you go give a follow, do all the things. And we're talking about AnalogJS. Here it is.
Hey, there you go. The SEO juice is working.
All right. So here's Analog. And if I want to give this a try, what should my first step be?
Yeah, I would say the first step, you could go to read the docs, which I will give a quick plug here for Stack Blitz. You can also open in Stack Blitz if you just want to kind of like tinker around, but I think for the purposes of here, we could go to read the docs and run it locally. So
cool. All right.
Yeah, so you have the intro page just kind of gives you an overview of what kind of some of the features of Analog, and we can kind of get in more of the kind of some of the things that Analog unlocks in like the broader ecosystem too. But if we go to getting started, and then we'll have creating new applications. Yeah, so you can just copy that.
So let me get one of these. I'm gonna get over here. Here we go. And then I'm gonna come out here. We're gonna create a new one. And there we go. So we'll call
just
this.
Give it a name there.
Analog. Just gonna give it a name like that. All right. So which one should I start with today?
We can start with full stack application. Yeah, the couple of ones there, full stack or blog. If you kind of know that you want to just build a personal blog there, we just kind of have a little extra templating there out of the box there. So, but
Nice.
The full stack one is the kind of the most common one, because there are actually people building full stack apps with not just static sites, but actually full stack apps there.
Nice. Very cool.
Then you got the option to use Tailwind. It's false by default, but it's just for people who have that preference there. I know people have preferences there, so.
Yeah, and I don't know Tailwind very well, so I will be faster without it, I think.
Yeah.
So we're in the project here, and then while that's installing.
Yeah, so it takes to install the usual dependencies there. Most of this will, like I say, once we get into the project and things, most of it will look very familiar because it's intended to be that way, as far as things that you normally use with Angular should feel familiar there. And then of course, like the SFC is kind of a step in in a different direction, but that's just a different thing. So.
All right. Yeah. So under the hood here, we've got, Angular, the Angular pieces. We've got, here's the analog stuff.
Content package, which is, which for the full stack application, the content package is just kind of included there. It's not necessarily being used yet, but we can get into like some of the routing and things. use that package there. But then there's the AnalogJS router package under that, which, like I said, this is what kind of connects the file-based routing to the Angular router.
Okay.
But we'll walk through some of that too. And then, like I said, you got your typical Angular things here, Angular packages, and then some of those other ones are for content things also, like front matter.
Yeah, front matter, Markdown.
Yeah, syntax highlighting. Yeah, we got some stuff cooking there, but
Cool.
still
Very cool.
still on the way there.
Yeah, excellent. All right, so I'm. Should I just like run the dev?
Yeah, we can walk through some of the files too if we want to take a look at those. But yeah, it's typical setup here. We're still using the Angular.
Wait, what did I do?
CLI here. Oh, okay, what did we use? Did we use like npm?
I used npm.
Okay.
And it doesn't.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to not go on a rant here about peer dependencies. But for this, we can run a command npm install. Well, it won't do legacy peer dep. So you can do at nx dev kit at nx slash dev kit. Yeah, and then at sorry at nx dev kit, and then we'll install a couple of other ones too.
Okay,
just for at nx slash vite. And then at nx slash angular, and then just nx by itself. So it just should cover all the other things that we may be missing there. So,
okay.
But usually it would install these dev dependencies, or would have them as peer dependencies. So they're just included in the setup there. So yeah, we got past the message there.
Here it is.
Able to kind of boot up things there, and it should be on 5173, and
There we go. All right, and so we've got the framework landing page. It's got some details. It's got the counter, and now let's take a peek at some of these files. Yeah,
sure. So yeah, in the, like I said, typical Angular setup here. So some of these files will look familiar if you're familiar with Angular. We got the Angular JSON file there. Then under our app folder, Angular JSON. This is mostly a lot of config here, just to set up the AnalogJS builder for Vite for building and serving. And I will mention that the Angular CLI, I'll say classic traditional Angular, also uses Vite as a dev server, but we're kind of using it on both sides to build and to serve everything. So because I like Vite a lot, and I feel like the Angular ecosystem should have more of it. So which is also a good bit of motivation for this project. So but yeah, Angular JSON is there. Then if we go under the app.config.ts file there, we have the usual setup here. This is just some configuration for it needs for starting up the application. So like zone change detection, that's a kind of a relatively new thing that was launched in V18, Angular V18. And then the provide file router is kind of where one of the analog package imports here. So traditionally you could import provide router from the Angular router, but that would say that you're like, I'm going to configure all these routes myself. Like I'm going to go create some files, go create some components and kind of wire them up, and I'm going to set the path and I'm going to set the configuration and everything. But the file router itself scans the pages directory in your application and looks for those particular pages, things that we have set up as pages. And then we can, it'll create URLs out of those. So like that index page is already wired up and ready to go there. So yeah, if you go into pages,
this one here,
indexpage.ts, yep. This is just that slash route that we initially went to there. And most of this is, like I said, pretty standard Angular component. One thing that is slightly different is here is like we're exporting the component as default for the routes. So it's just convention for people who are building using those pages. But outside of that, pretty standard Angular component syntax here.
Got it. Got it. So there is a question that I want to ask before we get too deep here, because we just installed some NX stuff. So Aram is asking, how easy is it to integrate an AnalogJS site into an existing NX workspace?
Oh, great question. I promise these aren't plant questions, but yes, it is. You can integrate AnalogJS into an existing NX workspace. And we do there is a site on a page in the documentation to where you can actually generate, if we want to jump back to the docs real quick. Yeah. If you go to integrations, and then there's an NX one there. Yeah. So we kind of talk about how NX, how you can add analog to an existing NX workspace and actually generate, from scratch an NX or an AnalogJS application within an existing NX workspace. And this works across versions of Angular too. So if you're on we just released version 18 of Angular, but if your NX workspace is maybe on an older version for some reason, it'll kind of adjust accordingly there.
Very cool. Speaking of Mark Texan, look at this guy. What's up, Mark? How you doing?
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate you. Always.
All right. So I'm confident we can get this, we can get it set up alone, or we can set it into an existing NX workspace. We've got our components. We've got the file-based routing.
Yep. So yeah, the convention here is, I would say it's more similar to Remix, file convention in Remix, where you can have index pages, or if you want to do like nested layouts, you can also do those also, which we can walk through an example of nested layouts and things. And then we can go through like content routes and things like that. But yeah, if we just, like I said, if we just want to create another page, let's say we want to create an about page, you can just create under pages. We create a new file called about.page.ts.
About.page.ts.
And then we have our kind of empty component here. And then we have to do the usual song and dance. So you do add component to create a new Angular component. Yep. And then bring that in there. And then as a decorator, so you call that as a function. Yep. And then you put an object inside of the decorator there. And we're going to add a couple of things here. We're going to say that it's standalone true. Yep. And then we'll add a template in there also. And this will just be the contents of what we want this component to display.
All right, so we'll make it nice and simple for now.
Yeah. And then under the component, you can just export default class and name it about page component. And then save that. And now we should be ready to rock with this one. So if you go back to the browser and just go to the /about there, now we have an about page. So we can you can see quickly how we can go from just a general, like we didn't have to set up any configuration, which like I said, you can still do with Angular Router today because this is built on top of that. But setting up a page component here, we were able to set up this page file, and now we have a route here. But the good thing is if we had other components in this particular area, like and you didn't name them .page.ts, like they wouldn't be registered as routes. So you can kind of co-locate other components to this particular area.
Gotcha. Question coming in from the chat. Is this ready for production?
I am glad to say it is. We actually launched our 1.0. Man, it's been, I can't remember when it is. If you go to our dev.to, we have a blog post dev2/AnalogJS. Yes, there it is. Announcing AnalogJS 1.0. It's back in March, actually.
It says, yeah.
So yeah, we launched 1.0. So we've just continued to kind of iterate on things since then. But yes, we consider it to be stable and ready to use. And people are already using you know how developers are. They were like already using it before the 1.0 hit. And some people just needed that, like that stamp on it. to start using it today, using it in their kind of like say enterprise environments or Angular shops. So, but it's definitely been making the rounds already.
Very cool.
Yeah, so that was just one example of a route that we could create. We can also create dynamic routes, the ones that have parameters in them. So if we create a page, let's say we want to create, let's say, what kind of URL do we want to create here, just to kind of test this out? We can just create one with an ID or
Yeah,
something like that.
let's do one with an ID, and we can just kind of make it a little echo thing. We'll show what the current ID is on the page.
Yeah, that works. Yeah, so we can say like name. We can do. We could do. It depends on how we want to do it. What do we want to call the path before the ID? Or do you want to prefix it with anything?
Yeah, why don't we prefix it with we'll call it article.
Yeah,
and then give it a slug. Is it square brackets for?
Yeah, To create dynamic parameters, you can put the slug in square brackets and then just .page .ts there.
Sweet.
So yeah, we have that slug.page there, and then we can create another component in here, and we do the same thing there. We have the export there, export default.
This article.
Yeah, you call it article page component or article component. The component name is just less descriptive here. Default class, excuse me, before article component. Yeah. And then we have our component here, and we're going to start this one with standalone.
What am I doing? I know how my keyboard works. Oh my God! All right, we got
object inside of there. Yeah, there you go. And then you put standalone true, and then your template in here. Now we are using inline templates here, and you can use like inline styles and templates, but if for those who prefer external styles and templates where you can define those in like an external HTML file, that is supported there also. But for the sake here, we're keeping things nice and clean. So we can say current, then
and that's where I want to get that slug.
Yeah. But we'll wrap that in I think you call them curly boys.
Curly boys.
There you go. You don't need the $sign though. Just two.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
okay.
two curly boys there, and then we could create a thing called slug there. Okay. And then we'll go into the component class itself and use that there. So we'll name this one. Yeah, we'll name this one slug. And then we'll say that equals, before that, we'll inject the router. So we'll name a property called router. And then, let's do route, not router. Yeah, route equals inject, just lowercase inject, from Angular core. And so this is Angular's way of doing dependency injection without going through like the constructor. So we'll just do inject here, and then you can, in here we'll do activated route. So capital A, activated route. Yeah, from Angular router. Yeah, we can inject that.
Okay.
And so then next we'll create the slug property, and then we'll say this dot route, and then we'll say param. We'll do the snapshot, or we can do the param. We could do param map. I would say param map. Yep.
Okay.
And we'll do a little bit of RxJS here. So we do the pipe operator there, that second one. And then in there, we'll do a map to just we're just going to get the
wait, sorry, you're going to have to, I don't know RxJS very well. You have to walk me through this.
Yeah, we'll do just a little bit. We won't get down in the weeds, but yeah, if you just type the word map, and then it should pop up the operator from RxJS. Yep, map.
Okay.
And then that'll be a function you can call, and then we'll say params, and then just return params.get. Oh, sorry, we'll do an arrow function here. After
like
the
this?
params. Yeah.
Okay.
And then params. You can return that directly there, params.get, and then we called it slug, right? So we'll do that, and then in the under these, we'll go back to the component metadata part, and we'll go into import or add a property called imports, and we'll import the async pipe here. Now we could use async pipe from at Angular Common. Yeah. Now Angular is moving towards signals and things, but we'll just use this one for now. And someone also mentioned in the chat about the with component binding, which you can use also, but for this one we'll just stick with async pipe for now. So for the slug inside of after the slug in the template, in there you just use the single pipe operator, or single pipe, I guess. After that,
like the actual
what do you call
pipe.
it? Yeah, the actual pipe, yeah. And then it would just use async after that. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So that's kind of just wires up the slug parameter and gets the value from the observable. But once we get more integration with signals and the router, then this will be a lot less verbose there. So you have to do article and then testing. So then there you go. So now I can chat.
Yeah. So this is great. Like this.
Things there.
This is this is every bit as straightforward as I would expect it to be. We have the parameters in here. We do the Angular way of getting the parameters, and we're off to the races.
Yeah. So and like I said, we didn't have to configure any of this because like I said, we're scanning analog is scanning the pages directory for routes, and actually you define, like, we didn't have to say that this, usually have to do like the colon syntax and say this is the slug, that sort of thing. But with the square brackets, we just kind of infer that from the page itself. So another way to a less verbose way to wire up your routing and things. And like I said, you don't lose anything from the Angular router in that case, because we're still using the standard Angular mechanisms here.
Yeah, and we can reach in and grab whatever we need out of the router, the Angular router.
Yep.
That's great.
So
are you still? I remember a while back I saw you had shipped. I think originally you were calling it .ng, and I think that was the source of some of the controversy. And then you renamed it to .analog.
Yes.
Are those still? Are you still shipping those?
Yes, we can actually use that in here also if we want to dive right into that too.
Yeah, let's try it. Because this is where this is what I saw, where my eyebrows started going up past my hairline. I was like, oh, what's going on here? I should probably air quote hairline, huh?
This was the big point. I was like, wow, this was a big, it was a big point of contention there with the .ng. And honestly, I didn't think it was going to be that big of a thing, just because we had said that, out front, this was experimental, this was an analog thing, and everybody's like, why is this coming to Angular? It's like, well, it's not coming to Angular yet, but maybe it never will. But I think even the idea of it, is a lot the idea of it is very valuable to have out in the community. So, and us to be able to iterate on it, and it's gotten a lot more positive feedback, I think, than the negative. So we got the .analog haters out there, the class component tribe, I call them. But then we got some people who support it too. So it's balanced there.
Yeah, and so if I want to do this, then can I just call this magic.analog?
Yes, and we'll have to enable it first because, like I said, it is an experimental thing. So if we go down into the vconfig, vconfig.ts, yep, and then inside the analog plugin there, and this is
here.
Yeah, under plugins, analog, you have open that object up there, and then there's a Vite option there. So yeah, that'll be an object. And then we have an object in there, and then we have experimental, and then we'll open that up, and then we'll have support analog format. So we'll just enable that. And that is all we need to Oh, analog.ts. Yeah, we'll probably have to restart the dev server here, but and then we can rename this so it's has a page there. What are we missing? Can I determine entity type?
Oh, I think
Okay.
this is because it's an empty file. So it's
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
just
yeah.
yelling because it's,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we haven't put anything in there yet. So if we want to create there's like the analog files themselves, and then there's like you can actually create pages out of these also. So if we want to just go straight to that, you could rename magic.analog to magic.page.analog. And in
let's do
here,
it.
we're going to create a component. Let's start. We can start out simple. We can have a template tag, just to wrap that in. A template tag. Yep, template tag there, and we can put something in there like hello, analog or magic. There you go. Let's call it magic. So if you save that, and I guess if we restart I don't know if we need to restart again, but it may recover after that. Yeah, let's go ahead and restart that again.
There we go.
There you go.
And
So now if we
go
to
out to
magic,
magic. Look
there
at
we
that,
go.
y'all.
So
Like this is cool as hell.
So yeah, if we just kind of compare and contrast like what we had to do before with the other, like the about page, this was about as simple as we can get. We had to do a decorator, we had the standalone true, we had the template, the export default, all that just for maybe some static content. Then we go to the magic, which was aptly named, of course.
Yeah.
The magic, we drop a template tag in there, and we get a component that does the same thing. So
Yeah.
this
And-
was the mind bender that some people came across.
I mean, and this is truly impressive, and so like Vinay's saying, like a framework for another framework, and it's true. Like, but this is analog is following in the glorious tradition of SvelteKit for Svelte, and Next for React,
Yep.
and Nuxt for Vue, and so this is something that I think. It really allows us to let the frameworks themselves, the libraries, whatever you want to call them, be primitives, and then we make site builders or app builders or whatever builders on top of them by leveraging things like Vite, which is at this point I think Vite is under the hood on all of them except
Yeah,
well, I guess
practically
the next team
everything.
isn't
Well, yeah, almost everything.
almost everything, but yeah, I think like Svelte, Vue, Solid, Astro, Analog, Nuxt, like they're all running on Vite now. So if you're building for the web, unless you're using Next.js, you're using Vite.
Pretty much, I must say. And when we kind of talked about this before, about at least analog itself, like Vite has enabled like a lot of this to happen. So even with the file-based routing, like we're using Vite primitives there under the hood, like server-side rendering, we're kind of connecting those through Vite, like a Vite plugin. There's a Nitro plugin underneath all of this that makes it happen too. So Vite is like a multiplier these days, and allows, like I said, framework authors, meta framework authors, just to be able to ship more stuff quicker without having to worry about these things, because they're handling like the heavy lifting on that. So.
So a question about this with these single file templates or single file components.
Yep.
This format here, under the hood, I assume you've written some kind of transpiler or compiler
Yeah.
or something that's sort of unwrapping it into this.
Yeah, essentially that's what we're doing. We're taking the analog, SFC, and we're transpiling that into an Angular class, and then passing that to the Angular compiler. Because the compiler says, I treat it like a spec. The compiler says I need a component to look this way. I need the format to look a certain way. So we're taking that, like the template. If you took, the template is essentially what you would drop in the inline template there, and then we create the component decorator and everything kind of virtually under the hood. And that was the part that kind of, like I mentioned, me and Chow kind of went back and forth on. Meet Chow and Joshua Maroney is another person I'd like to give a shout out here because he's been a real champion of this also. But yeah, it's like that was like the bridge I wanted to create was you could create the same Angular component with a lot less syntax, a lot less verbosity,
Yeah.
and still get like the same behavior and things. And it kind of fits, like I said, in with how the direction I think Angular is going as far as being simpler and with signals and everything, and more manageable. So, but yeah, still a preference.
So Linda just asked the question that was going to be my next question, which is, how about if we want to take this a little bit further and we want to have a .analog component that includes something that we did like in our
route,
in our slug route?
Yeah, so you can have logic and things in here. So yeah, let's create another page here. We can call it magic slug or magic.
Yeah,
slug
why don't we just do that? We'll do magic slug .page .analog.
Yep, that works.
Okay.
So here we can start with the template part here, and then we can kind of work our way through that. You can copy that same thing in there.
And do we still use the slug async?
Yes, we can still keep that for now. But like I said, we could have done it a different way as far as using the router component bindings or even convert it to a signal. We could have done that too.
Okay.
But yes, for you have your template here, and this is just how you define a template. So if we want to add some logic here, we're going to add a script tag, and I usually define these kind of like script template and styles, but the order really doesn't matter. So we're going to define a script, and
on
the script tag we'll add lang .ts to the script tag itself. Yeah. So after the script, in there we just do lang equals ts.
Let me make this HTML so it stops yelling at me.
Yeah, there you go. It looks a little better. Now we are working on. We actually do have a VS Code extension that we've kind of gotten off the ground to help with like syntax highlighting and things.
Cool.
So that would be something that people can use.
I grab that?
Yeah, it'll help with like the squiggly lines and things.
Yeah, let's do it.
VS Code. So still under in progress there, but AnalogJS language features. There you go.
Okay, so I'm going to install that.
It's probably get your pre-release. Yeah, so it's relatively new, but so yeah, there you go. So now we get the nice syntax highlighting, and we even get the .analog icon there with the files too. So yeah, in here, let's say we want to add those two same things there with the route and the slug. So you can kind of copy those two. We'll copy the imports from there. So this is where you would do. Oh, sorry. On the left side, we got that block of imports. You can just copy those over.
Oh, these
at the top there. Yeah. So you can paste those in there, and then in the route on lines 12 and 13, we can copy those two lines. Or sorry, in the on the class side of things, copy those two. But on this side, we can just create those as variables. So we can say const route equals inject the route, and const slug equals. You can just take out the this because we're just working on those things locally there.
Okay.
So those are just how you define variables. You can still just define them as const and let variables there, or and kind of use the other things that you're familiar with, like with Angular. So if you need to inject more things here, you can do that, and those things will be available to the template. So in order to make we have the imports there with the async pipe. We do provide like a bridge to be able to import like that metadata, but you can nuke that component decorator because we don't need that.
We don't need it.
You can use the inject. We will need the async pipe though.
We will need the async pipe. Okay, so I'll get rid of the component decorator.
Yeah, component decorator. And under the slug or under the imports, we'll use the import block there. Yeah, we'll use the define metadata function there. This is like a kind of like a macro define metadata. It's kind of like a macro, and then it'll be a function with an object inside of it.
Like this.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So this is similar to like the component decorator, but we only use this like when it kind of like as an escape hatch when you need to like connect some traditional Angular metadata to the component here. So yeah, we'll do the imports there, and then we'll do the async pipe, drop that in there. Yeah.
Okay. And then this is globally defined, or do I need to import this from something?
Yeah, it's global. It's globally defined. Yeah, we're still working on some of the types and things there, but
Cool.
it doesn't add any runtime cost to what you're doing there. So
Are
go
you yelling
to
at me? Let's see, what do I got here?
Oh, let's see,
Running Magic Slug page, and we got this going here.
Yeah, let's see, slug async. Let's go ahead and restart maybe the dev server needs a restart there. I didn't see any. Oh, slug analog. Okay, yeah, that part's fine.
Okay.
Okay, now we got. Okay, now we're
That's
back
our
at
home
the
page, and we get to Magic Test. Oh,
Okay, it looks like we
that's
got
redirecting me home.
error somewhere. Yeah, let's go back to the. Oh yes, let's see there. No page.
Can't
Magic
match any
test.
routes.
Oh, okay.
Am I fighting it because I have a magic and then a
No, no, those two. As long as they're not conflicting. Those weren't conflicting pages there. So
okay.
let's close that really quickly, and then stop the dev server, and then we'll let's do just like there's a .vite folder in the node modules, and we'll delete that just so it'll like refresh the routes and things. Yeah, so if you delete that and then just start up the dev server again, I think I got everything there. Okay, so that page is back now. Magic test.
Hydrated
Okay,
two
so
components.
two components
and then,
there. Define metadata. I'm missing something. We got our slug there. Oh, it's not. Yeah, this is the magic page, right? Or is this the slug page that we're editing? Which one is this?
This should be. Let me.
Yeah,
This is magic/slug.page.analog.
Okay, magic/slug. Yeah, that looks correct. But what I'm seeing is like our template, we should be just showing current, and it's showing magic. So
It's showing magic, which leads me to believe that it's like catching.
oh, okay. This
everything
may
at the
be
magic route.
Oh, I see. I think I know what's going on here. Let's go back to let's just look at our file structure here. Okay. I see what's happening.
Do I need to make this one index and drop it in magic?
No, what happened is we created a layout basically. So if you have like magic.page and then a magic folder, then we have a layout here. So in the magic page, yeah, let's just go in here and let's create a script tag in here. And then we can kind of work through this script tag, and then we'll import script lang equals ts there. Lang equals ts, and then we'll import the router outlet from Angular router, and then we'll do the define metadata again here, and then in there we'll do imports. Imports, and we'll drop the router outlet in there, and yeah, and then inside of our template under that we can use the router outlet all lowercase with a dash in the middle there. Yeah, and it could be a self-closing tag there. We'll do that one first. So yeah, if we save that, then if we go back to our magic page, I was trying to see if it should render that under there, define metadata. Yeah, so what's happening, like I said, what's happening is we have a layout in our magic page and we want to render its contents below that. So that's where that's just a development warning there. So
Generated the same component ID. Is that?
now that shouldn't affect anything there.
Okay.
But if we wanted to move that one, then we could add a selector there to the component, but we shouldn't need to do that. So let's go back to the magic page, magicpage.analog. Let's go back there really quick. Imports, router outlet. Let's just not do the self-closing tag. Let's just do like router outlet and then a separate one there / router outlet. Yeah.
Hey,
yeah, there we go. So, but yeah, it must have been something with the self-closing tag there. Yeah. So there you go. So yeah, that was kind of an unintentional. we had an unintentional layout we're creating there, but it did kind of show off two things: that we were able to create like the magic page there, and then the outlet itself. We accidentally created a nested layout, but I did talk about that convention before, where you have like I said, a page.analog and then a folder, and then anything under that folder would be kind of a nested layout. So if we had like a couple of links between different magic pages, then we could switch between those without like redestroying the whole layout.
Right. Yeah. So I could do something like we'll do a tref.
Yeah, we would use a router link here. So yeah,
like that.
I'm sorry, it'd be an A tag, but it'd be a router link with a capital L, just one word with no dashes. So A space, then router link, lowercase r. Yeah, router link. Just make the R lowercase.
Okay. And then you just go to like magic, and we'd say test.
Yeah. And then you could take out the href. Yep.
So we do a test.
And then you just create your A tag. And so we'll import the router link directive for that too. And we can try it's another thing that we have. So we won't add it there because you can take that one out there. We'll add a separate one. So under the Angular router, the import on line 2, we can take that one out, the router link.
Okay.
And then just import on a separate line. And so we import router link from Angular router. And then what we'll do here is, after this, we'll use import attributes. So we'll say with, after the router, we'll do with and then an object. And then you can say analog, and then string quotes, just analog itself. Yeah, then we'll do a colon, and then we'll do imports in a string after that. So, and this is something that we've kind of leaned into in analog itself, where using the import attributes, we can skip like the define metadata part, because we will handle that underneath, and it will add those those directives, or add those things that you import in the component itself. So
would that work?
We'd like to minimize.
So
yeah, we can move that one in there too.
Outlet? It will
do
work.
the same thing with that one. Yep.
That's sick.
That's a good magic test. Let's see.
Let's see. It didn't like my. Does not provide an export named router link. Did I screw this up?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. It should be Angular router instead of AnalogJS router.
Oh,
there you go. And then you could actually take out the define metadata.
Whoa.
Part there.
Where am I? Here we are.
Oh no.
I just magic test.
Yeah. So there you go.
There it is, working. Sorry, and you said I can take this out.
Yeah, you can actually take out the define metadata part there.
That's cool, because now we're getting into like, it's really starting to feel.
Yeah.
Kind of, I don't know. It just feels like very cohesive. Like I'm not doing anything. Oh my goodness! Look at it go! Look at us, y'all.
So you can just link between the two components there, and keep the goal is to you keep building. We didn't have to go back to configuration and touch a lot of other files there. We kind of manage those things inside of here. The import attributes is something that's specific to Analog, but it's a JavaScript proposal. I think it's in stage 3. But it is something that we're kind of leaning on to. They've used this in other cases too. Yep, like with JSON there. So we're using that to kind of decrease the amount of things that you kind of have to import and use to define metadata for. Because ideally, you could get a pretty far without having to use the define metadata, because that's like the bridge. It's like the escape hatch to it's the escape hatch to the component decorator in a sense. So
got it. Question coming in from Herodra. When switching the page, is it server-side rendered or client-side?
It is both, actually. So we are server-side rendering. Well, when we started up, server-side rendering is on by default. So we are server-side rendering this page, and then once you load it in the browser, then the client-side hydration takes over. So Angular hydrates everything in place. Where it can. So if we turn off JavaScript, we're still going to get a rendered page here. We can still navigate around because we're still just using anchor tags with the router link. So it renders those as just hrefs on the server. So and then if we turn JavaScript
and you
back
saw
on,
that it's now that it's logging again now that JavaScript is running, but when it was off, disable JavaScript. And then I start reloading. You don't get any logs, but it still runs.
Yep.
So that's slick. We've got like a functioning site built in Angular that doesn't require JavaScript to operate.
Yep.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah. So we got to show off the SFCs there. Like I said, getting a lot of positive feedback about them. We've kind of, like I said, did a lot of iteration on them, and you can use them just as part of like I said, your normal workflow. We are using some, like I said, it is experimental. So because we are using some experimental like Angular APIs and things, but if you opt in, we kind of make that explicit by opting in that you can take advantage of that. So
yeah, this is dope. This is extremely cool. So what else? I mean, what else do you want to show? What I feel like we've covered a lot very quickly, which is pretty awesome.
We can kind of walk through some of like the content side of things.
Before we do that, let's peek at this.
But yeah, go ahead.
I want to see how these server routes work, because I see you've got one kind of set up here.
Yeah. So we talked about API routes, just having those out of the box here. So as I mentioned before, we're using Nitro under the hood, was like a server engine toolkit, and it allows us to hook into these API routes, and these are also file based. Just creating these files inside of the server routes folder, we get routes out of those. So if we go back to the browser, you can visit this directly if you go to /API/v1/hello. And we just have an API out of the box there. So, and this is similar, like I said, similar to what you would get in other meta frameworks. So this is where you can put like your server side, API logic and things if you want to connect to a database.
And this is straight node, right?
Yeah.
So we can import, we can bring in Octokit, we can bring in our TRPC, we can bring in our Firebase or Supabase or Postgres or whatever, and just do app things in here and be able to access that on the through a front end API route.
Yeah, definitely.
Very cool.
We also have what we call server side data fetching. So if you wanted to put some logic, go fetch some data, go fetch something about a page, we could actually load that on the server. So we can use like the article one for this. So if you go
do we want to do it in the page or the single file component?
I think either one will work. I'll say let's
Okay.
do it we can do it in the page one for this example.
Okay.
So under the article, if you go to and create a file under that in that same folder called called slug.page or slug.server.ts, excuse me.
Okay.
So yeah, curly braces
Server.ts.
slug.server.ts. Yeah.
Okay.
And in here, we want to export a load function, or it's going to be a async function called load. And then from here, we can just return like an object that says like loaded true for that. But you could do additional server things here, like connect to a database and go fetch some, posts or to-dos or things like that here. So that's one part of it. And we'll need to add, like if we go to the root of the project and add an environment variable, or .env, excuse me. Yeah, in .env. And in here, we're going to just define like where our host is. So we're going to name this, and it's going to be all upper snake case, I guess it is. So it'll be Vite, then underscore analog underscore public, then underscore base underscore URL. And then we'll just say that equals our host that we're running on, which is http http/localhost 5173.
Which I just learned the other day is leet code for site.
Oh, okay.
And now that I can
Nice.
see it, it's like SITE. I was like, come on.
I'm going to
nerds.
date myself here really, really badly, but this reminds me of like the pagers when we used to like the pagers used to just spell words like hello and other things like that. I was like, oh no, you got to turn it upside down to see what the actual word is.
Yeah, exactly that. Okay, so we got this, and then does that auto start with a? It does. So the .env change, so it restarts the server.
Yeah. So now we can go back into our
Server.
our slug here. Yep. Sorry, go into our page, slug.page there. And then we actually have some our information in here. So we can import and inject from the AnalogJS router. We can import the inject load function.
Inject load, and then we're putting it in the imports.
No, we won't need to put it in there. You can put it in
Okay.
we can define the a property in the class itself. We can just name it data. And then we can say equals inject load. And then we'll use the, we'll add a generic after inject load. And so we'll use the type of there. So before the parentheses, if you'll just put a generic in front of that, there you go. And just put type of load in there. Or import the, let me take a step back.
This one?
Import the, yes, there you go. Import that load function there, type of load.
Okay.
And then that just gives us some type information about what we're returning
Oh, and now we've
there.
got
So yeah, that's going to give
already
us an observable of that data there. So, but it'll be all that data will all be loaded on the server.
okay. And so then in here, I can do something like let's have this just dump whatever it is. So we'll do a pre-tag, and then we can.
We can do the double.
What's the shortcut if I wanted to do like a JSON stringify? Is there a shortcut in here?
You can do data. You'll have to use the JSON pipe, so you have to add that to the imports. Oh, so you can just do JSON there, and then you just add it to the imports of the right there where the async pipe is.
And is it lowercase like
so
that?
yeah, JSON. Yep, that one JSON pipe,
JSON pipe.
and then you add that to the imports down there on line 15. There you go.
Oh, cool. Now it's not mad anymore. Great. Okay. Excellent. All right.
So if you just
then
so that was for a server-side data fetching, that's all we need to do. Or you got to close the pre-tech, or maybe the pre-tech. No, it's
I
already.
think I did something
Okay,
weird. It did something
there you
weird.
go.
There we go. Now it's not being weird. All right.
Okay.
Okay. So then when I come out here, that was on our article.
There's an article. Yep. Article / there. Oh, okay.
And then
Sorry.
there's our
We need
data.
the async. We need the async pipe in front of the JSON pipe. But we'll actually do something different here. Let's go to in front of the take the async pipe out. We can actually convert this to a signal here. So we'll just say toSignal there. If it'll import, toSignal, just wrap that in the toSignal function. And then there, and then on the second argument, we'll import that from now. If you go up to the top there and import toSignal from Angular core / RxJS interop. So if you just drop a line under that one, toSignal. This always has bothered me why the deep imports don't always work.
RxJS interop.
RxJS / interop dash. Yeah, or dash interop. Sorry, and then you got the E after Angular there.
Sorry, I was trying to class it up. Angular.
Angulare. Nice. It's French.
Okay, so then this is a signal.
Okay, so
and then
we'll
do I have
add
to change anything up here?
We'll add one more thing after that. After as a second argument to toSignal, we'll do an object there, and we'll say require sync is true, and that just means that we're immediately going to get a value from this signal. And then data, we can call that as a function. So we don't need the async pipe anymore there. We just say data and then JSON, like we would normally do with signals these days. So now we got our loaded true. And also in that load function, like we can access, parameters. You can actually access that ID that we added as a slug, access that actually in the server-side data loading. And then you can do things like load something with that ID, or if you wanted to do something there. So,
I actually have. Why don't we try this? Because I have an API, and we have episodes, and so we can grab, in fact, what is today's episode called? If I grab the slug for it, there you are. Then I can get this here. And that should give us, is that my server? Here we go. So this is the details for today's episode, right? So we can grab something like this and then head back into the code. Mm-hmm. And we'll be able to
and here
fetch this, and this can be the slug. Mm-hmm. Okay. So,
you can use standard. Well, inside of the load function there, there's an object that you can use to get the slug. It's params. Inside of there is an object. Should be a params key in there, and. There's also a type for that we can import. It's called page server load. That'll help out with the imports there. So after the object, at the end of that, you can do a colon. Then page server load from AnalogJS router. Yep. Okay. And then params. That'll give you that. And then it might be I believe it will be. A square bracket under that to get
like this?
params, then slug in quotes. I have to double check if that's correct there, but I believe it is. But that will give you the slug that was passed to that particular route, and then you can see the data that comes along with it.
And then we can just return that. And theoretically speaking, what'll end up happening then is if I have one of the episode slugs and we go in here, should be able to drop this and we get the details. So now we've got server-side loading of data based on the slug in the URL.
Yep.
And so now we can start doing things like, I assume I could do my whole content loader and like build my site on Analog.
Yep. So you could do all you could connect, like I said, you could bring in your environment variables and all your server-side stuff you want to do there. And then that's also less code that you're shipping to the browser. So if you have like server logic in there too, but like I said, if you wanted to use like Angular traditional like HTTP client and make requests that way, you could do that also. So that part is available too. So it's like you're bringing the knowledge of Angular that you know into this space and being able to just build on top of that. So and then we provide some extra things on top of that to kind of smooth things out.
Nice. And we got what I assume is some loving trolling, which is how long do we leave it as .analog before we go back to .ng?
You know what? I am too scarred to go back there. But no, we're gonna stay with the .analog extension. I did, as just to be spicy about it, I did think of maybe we could just make it configurable. So hey, like we call it .analog, you call it .ng. Let's be friends. But we'll leave it as .analog for now.
Got it. Okay, so we got about 10 minutes left of demo time.
Yep.
Is there anything else that we haven't looked at yet that you want to make sure we dig into?
Yeah, we could show like we showed the blog as an option, but we can kind of show like what content loading looks like like really quickly in Analog. So if we go into and I mentioned this before with the AnalogJS /content package, if we go into the app config file there, and so we have our router and things like that. So in here we can actually render Markdown as pages.
Cool.
So if we'll hook this up and then we can maybe throw one more Easter egg in here. But so if we go under provide client hydration and use and add provide content under that, provide content, this will be from @AnalogJS /content. So if we just want to import it from there, @AnalogJS /content.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, you got import on.
Got to spell things right. There we go.
So also inside of provide content, we use the with Markdown renderer there. So with Markdown, or you just pass it as an argument. It doesn't have to be an object there. So yeah, with Markdown renderer and just call that as a function. And that actually allows us to do things like render Markdown pages and things like that. So if we want to just create a page under here called like hello .md, and then we want to throw some Markdown in here, then we can load that in there. And like I said, the content package kind of wires up being able to load the Markdown as routes there. Then if you, like I said, if you just want to put a couple of pages up there that don't necessarily require a component, we can drop that in there. And now, yeah, we have a nice Markdown component there, which is something that people are, familiar with. Like I said, you're building marketing sites, static sites, or even just want to drop some additional links in there, additional things in there. You can do that with straight up Markdown.
Can I chaos agent for a second?
You sure can.
All right, here's my theory.
Let's see.
Okay, here's what I'm hoping will happen. Is if I go to /magic/neat, we should get our Markdown, but it's going to get dropped into the slot.
Okay.
Is that going to work? Let's find out.
Go for it.
Look at it
There you
go.
go.
Y'all, but so this is what makes this stuff so magic is like now you can do a basic layout for your site, right? And then you just drop markdown files in for the pages that are only text. And when you've got things like privacy policies, codes of conduct, about pages, stuff like that, where all you're really needing is a place to put the content. And there's nothing, there's no dynamic thing. There's no custom components. This is huge because it saves so much time and it makes it possible for your team to like edit this site without having to know a single bit about coding. They can literally just edit a markdown file. That's huge.
Would we like to throw some more magic at this?
Yes, I would absolutely love to throw
Okay.
some more magic at this.
Let's
see if we can
go.
wake up the rest of Linda's cats.
Let's go back to the app here.
Okay.
And let's create we'll call another file. We'll create a page.analog file here.
In which?
Well, let's create page.analog file. Yeah, under there, we'll just call it more magic or something. .page.analog. Yep, there you go.
Okay.
Okay, so let's create a template. And then, but in this case, let's get wild. Let's put lang md in our template here.
Okay.
And then we're going to drop some markdown in there. Yep. So we talked about like being able to author Angular components without, author Angular components effortlessly. Script lang.ts. We don't necessarily need to drop anything in there.
We don't need anything.
Yeah, we don't need to drop the script tag. But yeah, we can do lang.md, and then if we visit that more magic page there, we should, if everything works well, we can author. But the part about this is this is an Angular component. So if we wanted to drop some Angular syntax in here, some interactive Angular syntax, along with the Angular or just the HTML template or anything, we could do that too. So that's another thing that we've been kind of working on in the background. We do have one. What we call it it's the .agx file format, or not AJAX file format. It's the AJAX extension. Okay. But it's similar to like Markdown or MDX. I call it MDX, but for Angular. But that's another way that we can author interactive Angular components still have, like if you want to build documentation or interactive and include some interactive components in there, you could actually drop those Angular components in the template mixed with your Markdown, and like everything just kind of gels together. So
that is extremely cool. This is like everything that I would expect it to do, right? Everything we've thrown at it, it works. Somebody mentioned that there's an Astro integration. I think I saw that in the docs.
Yes. Yeah, we do have a few integrations with Astro where you can actually use Angular components within an Astro application, like you would React or Solid or other UI frameworks. You can add those there. We have more integration with testing tools like vtest, and upcoming, hopefully, support with Playwright soon. That'll be on the way. So you'll be able to use Angular component testing with Playwright and Angular. And all this is kind of driven through the Vite integration. So the Vite plugin in Analog can be used with any Angular app, but it unlocks like so many other things there that we'll be able to use.
This is really cool stuff. I mean, like, huge kudos to you and the rest of the team for putting together something that, like, I don't know. I feel like there's so much energy coming into the Angular community right now through the Angular core team themselves, and bringing in some of the more modern JavaScript features and the modernization efforts they're making through what you're doing with Analog, and just it just feels like something special is happening right now. Like there's energy in Angular that I feel like I haven't seen it for a long time, and so I'm so excited to see how far you've come in such a short time. can't wait to see where you go next.
Yeah, shout out to the Angular team. They've enabled a lot of this to happen too. You know, like a while ago, you couldn't do any of this just because Angular was kind of restricted in that way. But shout out to the team for, you know, supporting the community and supporting projects like Analog and other things that like we've built over the years. So things have definitely moved along.
And there's some good stuff in here if you want to check it out. Like, you know, we've had Brandon on here talking about Angular, but we've got Jessica and Mark from the Angular team more recently talking about like some of those modernization efforts and what's been going on. There was also a bunch of stuff about it at Google I/O this year if you want to go find those videos somewhere. But yeah, if you've ever been interested in Angular, or if you're working on a big team and you need to pass like all the enterprise compliance things about bringing tools into your work, Angular is extremely worth your while. It is a good set of tools, and there's a good ecosystem and good people around it. Brandon, if people want to go further here, where else should they, like, what should they do next?
Yeah, I would say definitely check out the docs at AnalogJS.org. I believe you dropped that link in the chat there. So definitely check out the docs. You know, visit our GitHub repo if you want to get involved. All of those things can be linked from the docs there. And if you're interested in, you know, sponsoring the project, we got a few people, the core team. If we go over to the contributors in the docs there, we definitely want to give them a shout out to the team. Robin, Chow, Marco, and Josh definitely have helped, and Luis, don't want to forget Luis and Andres. And of course, a whole host of other people that have contributed along the way. Definitely want to give them a shout out. But yeah, those are the ways you can support the project. You know, give us a star on GitHub. You know, sponsor if you know. I would say if you can get if your company's using Analog and you want to, you know, continue to see this thing move forward, definitely give us a sponsor or something there. So, but yeah, we're gonna keep building the thing. So we're excited about it.
All right, I'm gonna put up the link on sponsoring here. Oh, it's literally right here. So there we go. There we go. I'm gonna drop that link directly so that everybody can go check this out. And with that, Brandon, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. Y'all make sure that you go follow Brandon. Check out Analog. Make sure you give this thing a try. It is very legit. And while you're checking out things on the site, make sure you go and look at the schedule, which is not up to date. There are more episodes coming. This isn't the last one.
Oh no! I'm glad to be the last guest on the. Just kidding.
We got good stuff coming up. Coming into summer, I've got a lot of travel, so dates will be a little bit intermittent, but we've got really fun stuff coming. So make sure you get on the newsletter, join the Discord, do whatever it is that you got to do to make sure you don't miss an episode, because they're just going to keep coming. All right. Y'all, thanks for hanging out. Brandon, thank you so much for being here. We will catch you all next time.
See you, friends.